All right, we're good. I think we're good. Yeah, they're probably gonna issue a tornado warning on that within a minute. Just depends on the evolution of that storm. Okay. Anyways, y'all, welcome to the stream. Know it's been a little late, but we have a lot going on. This is not actually because I wanted to talk about the future outlooks. But we have a bunch of storms ongoing across the Ozarks, Missouri, West Tennessee, back into central Tennessee or middle Tennessee, northern Alabama. Uh, Real quick, I want to touch on. Let's start off with the severe thunderstorm warning. We have a line of thunderstorms that are moving across northern Alabama and south south central Tennessee. Uh, they have a severe thunderstorm warning that's going to be lasting for the next 32 minutes, 60-mile-per-hour winds, uh, and three-fourths inch hail, or up to three-fourths inch hail. Main concern is that we have a bunch of flooding ongoing. If you're back over in Union City, you got a bunch of flooding that has occurred or is occurring right now. And we have a flash flood emergency for Missouri. We're talking about Iron County and northeastern Reynolds County. 6 to 11 inches of rain have fallen, with an additional up to 1 inch being possible. So pretty widespread rain event that is currently ongoing. So we got all these flood watches out here that are in effect. We've had a bunch of storms so far that have been kind of training. If I had to draw a line where all these storms are kind of training, it kind of goes like this way. They're all kind of, oh my God, centered back down south of that line. But uh, it's probably once again it's going to lift back up north for tomorrow. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Actually, we can talk about it now. Let's talk about today's outlook. We have a okay, I gotta get rid of the warnings, because that's going to be trippy. Do we have any discussions? We do, but they're already unseen. Uh, all right, talk about this real quick. We do have two slight risks of severe weather today. This was updated as of 30 minutes ago. Would be now. One's gonna be back over here for the Ozarks, back into Western Kentucky, not Western Tennessee, and another slight risk back over in the high plains for the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, and into southeastern Colorado. Marginal risk back up here, marginal risk down here, large marginal risk surrounds that from Denver all the way out to uh, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Main concerns for today will be not a tornado threat, but we do have a large 2% tornado risk today. And I would even support expanding this tornado risk a little further south to include this area in a new outlook at 3. So that new outlook would come out. I do think we could see a isolated brief tornado anywhere within this area, though. The greatest concern for the tornado would actually be with any initial supercell that can get going back over in western Missouri and far eastern Kansas is where I'd be the greatest concern for a tornado threat today. But anywhere within that 2% tornado risk, there is a possibility of uh, brief weak tornadoes. Wind threat 15%. We talked about that a little bit. Nothing of concern. Tomorrow we have another slight risk of severe weather. Yes, this is not May. This is not April. This is July. July is severe weather season for some reason this year. We have a slight risk. This goes for that's a bad drawing. Nonetheless, we have a slight risk. It includes Jonesboro, Memphis, Nashville, Huntsville, and Tupelo, Mississippi. This is actually going to be one of the biggest days of severe weather. They don't have a tornado risk outlined, but they have mentioned a tornado risk being needed somewhere back over here for West Tennessee and eastern to central Arkansas. But the main concern for tomorrow will actually be damaging winds. And, you notice that we have this. hatched zone. This is where we can expect winds anywhere between 60 to 80 mile per hour winds at times. Obviously, the greatest concern would be where that 15% wind risk is right over here. And I'd actually wouldn't even rule out them adding a 30%, which would upgrade us to, it gets really close to an enhanced risk of severe weather, but I would not rule out a 30% being issued sometime. If not in this next outlook, the midnight outlook. Health threat not that big of a concern, but any supercells that can get going back over in Oklahoma and far western Arkansas would have the chance of producing pocket change size tail. Maybe a couple storms could produce up to half dollar size tail at times. And then the day three outlook, I mean southeast, we have another marginal risk. For severe weather, this includes the Tennessee Valley, this includes the southeast, this includes the Carolinas, Florida, Jacksonville, you're not in this. This goes all the way up to Oklahoma as well. Large marginal risk. We have another one that also includes Arizona, the desert southwest. Main concerns would be damaging winds, maybe an isolated brief tornado. The greatest concern would be back over here in the Memphis area in the Pine Bluff, Arkansas. That's where I would expect the greatest chance for a couple supercells to produce a tornado threat. And weirdly enough, this is a very rare instance. We actually do have a day five. We have a future probabilistic outlook. I don't think I've ever seen this happen for the month of July. Never. So this is the first time I've ever actually seen them issue a outlook beyond day three for severe weather. This is for the far northeast. This is New England. Uh, Main concerns actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, uh, was this? Yeah, damaging wind threat. Although I will say this, I do have a sneaky feeling of a tornado threat, especially back over here in Vermont. Uh, some of the models that were showing around 2 hours ago were kind of showing a couple supercells getting going, and if that were to actually play out, uh, we could see a couple tornadoes get going. And then as for no other outlooks occurring, again, very rare scenario. If we go to the thunderstorm outlook, I actually want to look at this real quick. Yeah, this is just what is this? What is this? Come on. I mean, do I even need to explain what that looks like? Nonetheless. Uh, we do? Okay, let's talk about the excessive rainfall risk. Gotta talk about this. We have a moderate risk of excessive rainfall now. This is where we have that flash flood emergency ongoing. This moderate risk is mainly just for Missouri and extreme western Kentucky. Uh, we have a large slight risk that encompasses that. Day two, I'm actually a little shocked we don't have a moderate risk on the day two, especially for this area in particular, is where I'm really concerned with seeing some flash flooding ongoing. Tomorrow, day three, nothing. Day four, nothing. We have a slight risk. I'm not concerned with that. It's a little too far out for me to deal with right now. Uh, yeah, but that's what we got going. Also, oh my gosh, what in the world's going on? Yeah, okay, that's a little interesting. Real quick, let me take care of this. Okay, where was I going? Where was I doing? What was I doing? What was I doing? Will it be in Rhode Island too? Are you referring to what do you mean by will it be in Rhode Island? Do you mean are you talking about the day? Are you talking about the probabilistic outlook? If that's what you're referring to, then Rhode Island definitely would be in play for a marginal risk. If you're referring to the day 5 outlook, then which would be, if I'm doing this right, what's today? Today's like Friday, right? So Saturday, Sunday, Monday. This would be Tuesday. If you're talking about Tuesday in terms of the day 5 outlook, you would definitely be under that marginal risk. I'm sure of it. If not, you'd be just on the outskirts of it. But Rhode Island definitely would be in play for Tuesday. Right now, it's just a little too far up north. What would have to happen is you would need that low pressure system that would be centered somewhere back over here to kind of drop south a little more. If he dropped, I believe it's right there. I haven't checked the models in around 2 hours, so I'd have to go back and look. Uh, but if I'm not mistaken, it's last time I checked, it was over here. If it drops down just a little more, then Rhode Island would definitely be in play. On Tuesday. If you're referring to the next couple days, uh, today would probably be your greatest threat. You're it's under that thunderstorm risk, but the main threat would be just to your west today. If you're referring to day 2, nothing. Day 3, nothing. So your greatest chance of severe weather being seen for Rhode Island would be, I don't know why this is drawing. What is it doing? Your greatest threat, God, your greatest chance of seeing severe weather if you're in Rhode Island would be Tuesday. You probably wouldn't be under a slight risk, probably maintain the marginal risk. I can actually look at the models and kind of see where they're playing that out. This is the HRR at 16Z. This is not complete. We'll go to the 15Z. We'll see it from there. But no, your greatest risk will be Tuesday. I don't think Monday. I don't think today, tomorrow, or day 3 would be much of a concern. So, see today. Yeah. So I'll talk about Rhode Island on the 12Z run real quick, or I'll show it on the GFS. Actually, let me pull up. Let's see, surface fronts. That might help. So this, if I'm not mistaken, I'm positive of this. This low pressure system right here. This is what's going to kind of go ejecting over, and this is actually shown. This is actually a way further dip south. That's actually in play. If this is actually dipping that far south, then Rhode Island would be probably the main player on Tuesday. I don't think it's going to drop that far south. I think it's going to maintain somewhere in the middle, which would impact more of the far northeast. But if this scenario plays out and we do actually kind of see this drop and then go off, then we'd probably be talking about more about this area, which would include Rhode Island. Also, what in the world we got going on? We'll talk about if you have any other if you have any other questions, you can ask me. I'm going to go over the model runs and what to expect for the next couple days. We'll kickstart with what's going on today, 11 a.m. Not surprised. This actually was a pretty accurate model run, so maybe it'll be accurate again. Not expecting much, but we're expecting sometime around 6 p.m. They're going to see. Ugh, gosh, gotta get my mind right. Uh, we're gonna see a couple of supercells get going around St. Louis. Might even have a couple of supercells back over in Kansas City. If that plays out, that's where our isolated tornado risk would be in play. And as we're approaching into the evening hours, this will congeal. This is actually weirdly showing a strong supercell just to the east of St. Louis. If that were to play out for St. Louis, wouldn't even roll out an isolated strong tornado. I'd have to check the STV values. This will congeal into a large cluster before moving off, and then tomorrow we'd be mainly talking about back down the interior southeast and the Tennessee Valley is where we'd be talking about. But like I said, Rhode Island's greatest concern will be Tuesday of next week. You're pretty chill for today. You might get some popcorn showers to appear today, but that's about it. Let me check the STV values. I want to check something. This is our significant tornado parameter values. This is basically how favorable the atmosphere is in a specific region for a tornado. As it stands right now, there's actually uh, the environment is going to be somewhat favorable. you're not going to really have crazy values, but we'll have some near one. And if we get a value near one, tornado would definitely be in play. And then tomorrow, it's not really showing much of a tornado threat, but I do think a isolated brief tornado cannot be ruled out somewhere within this area. Tomorrow, my greatest concern will probably be back over in Arkansas. West Tennessee might just escape the tornado threat tomorrow. We'll have to wait to find that out. Okay, we got a lot going on. We're at the temporarily hold off on talking about future outlooks. We got a lot going on apparently. Get rid of the service runs. Bring this all back. We got a lot going on. We need to talk about real quick. Pull this back up. All right. Real quick, the National Weather Service in St. Louis. I think that's where they're located. Am I right? Is the St. Louis the one that does that? I think it's St. Louis. Anyways, the St. Louis has said that the flash flooding threat back over here in this flash flood emergency is actually a lot worse. Flooding rescues are becoming nearly impossible at this point. Like I said, 6 to 11 inches of rain. They are literally are saying, in the hilly terrain. Uh, this is I've seen them use this wording a couple times. They don't use this for every single one, I think. But they literally describe this as a extremely dangerous and life-threatening situation. They're telling people to not attempt to travel unless you are fleeing an area subject to flooding or under an evacuation order. The thing is that there's so much flooding that, according to St. Louis, that people aren't able to evacuate. So, nonetheless, we actually have a couple storms going out there in North Carolina. I'm just gonna be working. Gosh, I'm messing up my words today. Right now, we are waiting on the day two outlook, and once we get the day two outlook, once we get the day two outlook, we'll kind of know a little more. Also, I guess and touch on this. We have a new special weather statement. A strong thunderstorm will be impacting Collierville, Sumnerville, Oakland, Williston. This is for 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts at times. Uh, so something to keep an eye out on. I need to pull back up YouTube because I don't know if anyone's got any questions. Oh, whoa. I don't like to hear my own voice, y'all. But once again, Rhode Island should be safe. If anything were to happen to Rhode Island, I'll definitely cover it for you. Uh, I don't think anything's going to occur, but if one of those storms can perhaps get going, actually, what's the radar looking like? Hey, you know what? Who's here? We'll cover you. Who, what's going on in this place? We got a Buddhist temple. Are the Buddhists okay? This is in Rhode Island. We have a singular, one of the tiny, I can't tell if this is just like a really tiny storm. This is a storm. Like, we can tell that. I can't tell if this is just a storm, just like some weird polluted thing going on, but, um, whatever's going on over here, if it is raining, hopefully you're indoors. Nonetheless, nonetheless. Heat advisories are actually starting to get issued. They might issue some more up to 109. That's actually a little too hot in my opinion. We've got a bunch of flash flooding going on. That's the biggest concern is that flash flooding is just it's become such a big issue. And obviously, in the summertime, we're used to seeing a couple storm systems that cause extreme flooding for summertime, but like last year, if you remember last year, we had all the flooding in Camp Mystic in Central Texas, if I'm not mistaken. What in the world? And so that was like a once in a generational event. But now the problem is that we're getting so much consecutive flooding this year that it's becoming really hard to tell. The National Weather Service has kind of done a poor job. Obviously, I'm okay. Here's the thing. I'll say this: they're doing their job. In my personal opinion, don't take my word for it because I'm not a specialized weather man. I'm a weather enthusiast who knows a lot about it. In no way should I say you should doubt the National Weather Service, but in my opinion, I think they've kind of not done enough to get flash like warnings that like excessive rainfall outlooks out. Now, of course, that the Weather Prediction Center does that, but they don't push it enough. And the reason I'm saying that is because the problem is that they issue the flash flood emergency, and then 3 hours later finally decide to say, okay, let's upgrade this to a moderate risk. Like you should have done that in the morning. But again, it's the National Weather Service. I'm not the one who calls the shots. I would have issued a moderate risk of excessive rainfall if I was there. I don't work there. There's a reason. Okay, so I'm just their average weather enthusiast who just so happens to know a lot about weather because I live in a severe weather prone area. Also, we'll say this, and I'm not even gonna lie, I was not expecting them to issue a hatch just for wind. I talked about like I think it was a one of the other storm system one of the other days of severe weather where I said they could issue a hatched risk. Gosh, hatched risk of wind, and them doing it today was not one of the days I was expecting them to put out a hatched wind risk. So I will admit I was not expecting that. They are describing it as low 70 dew points, around 3,000 joules of energy, which is plenty to get storms going. They're develop along surface boundary during the afternoon, deep layer shear, yeah, multi-center upscale, damaging winds, around 2 inches. I will also say this. I would not rule out a couple wind gusts exceeding 85, maybe even 90 miles per hour. It's just, it would come down to can the storms actually upscale and growth fast enough? If they grow upscale fast enough, we could definitely see a couple downburst damaging winds reach around 85 to 90 miles per hour. If they kind of take a minute to grow upscale, we'll still see some significant wind reports, but they won't be 85 to 90. They'll be more 75 to 80. Maybe a localized 85 mile per hour, somewhere within that. It just really comes down to, first of all, the environment's got to be there. There won't be a cap. The only thing that's really stopping us is just the fact that it's too hot. If it was just a little colder, we'd be talking about an enhanced, maybe even a moderate risk driven by wind. So that's the only reason that this is not, your typical. This is the only reason why this is not a big time weather event. It's just simply because it's too hot. If it were to be more in your 70s to 80s, with the environment that they're talking about, we'd be talking about a potential derecho going on across the southeast, West Tennessee, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, northwestern Georgia, Arkansas. We'd be talking about a significant derecho, but because it's way too hot for the atmosphere to allow some cool off air, it's just going to be extremely hard for me to see much of a significant widespread damaging wind event. If I had to say, but I will say this, I do think a damaging wind event will occur. I just don't think it would be widespread, which is why I should agree with them keeping the slight risk relatively small. I know this is not. You look at the map and you go, well, this ain't really small. This is one of their smaller slight risks that they usually issue. Usually the slight risk is like if you go here, like that is a much larger slight risk. So usually they issue large ones like that. But this one's a little more on your smaller side. I would say, let me rephrase it. It's a little on the smaller side if you're in the southeast. Anywhere else, it would probably be around average. But in the southeast, usually our slight risks are like really big. Like they like to extend it far out. And also, by the way, can we talk about the weird shapes that the National Weather Service is doing? I mean, come on. I mean, come on. You mean tell me this is what it looks like? Like, come on. You mean tell me we can't tell what that looks like? They do this every time. Look at this. Day one. I mean, day one ain't bad, but you go to day three and it's pretty normal. But there, some of these outlooks that AB is showing, it's just like really sus, like, like shapes. I guess is how I'd put it. Uh, what was there to talk about? Is that this? Let's see. Yeah, I've never seen this many observed flash flood warnings. I've never seen that. It's on, and all these are in Missouri, by the way. This is literally like flash flood emergency is the highest level of flash flood you could receive in a warning. That's just showing you how bad it's like meant to be. So I went out, please. Thank you. Uh, but if you have any questions, you can let me know. The Rhode Island question was a good question. Definitely, I'll say Rhode Island's gonna be biggest threat will be Tuesday. Unfortunately, I don't think they said what time. It'd probably be during afternoon, evening. Oh, red flag warning and heat advisory. What do we think the heat advisory for this is? 85. Oh man, I wish it was only 85 here. What is the temperature in my area? Well, it's 86 here, so I guess technically I'm getting their weather. Oh my gosh. They should be coming out with the day two outlook in a minute. Though that's kind of why I went live, so I wanted to see the day two outlook as well, and also the flash flooding going on. A little too much for me. Oh wow. Oh wow. They like okay, that's interesting. They shifted the slight risk. Whenever this loads, there we go. It just loaded. They shifted it north. Uh, whoa, whoa. Okay, so there's a tornado risk. There's no more. Oh, okay. So they kind of mixed it up a little bit. I don't agree with this outlook. Uh, I'll kind of okay. I don't agree. Here's the thing. I'll say this. I kind of don't agree with their decision to do this. Uh, yeah, I don't really understand that. That doesn't make a lot of sense. The wind risk makes sense. The hail risk is makes sense. The tornado risk does not make sense. The 2% is too far north. I don't agree with that. Yeah, here we go. I don't agree with this. I'm sorry. Obviously I'm not your big time weatherman, but this is too far north. This would make more sense if it was way further south. It should not be up here. If the supercells, if we look at the latest model runs, this is what I'm talking about. This is why this I don't agree with this. 16Z is complete. Here we go. I want y'all to look at this. This is what I'm saying. This doesn't make any sense. We need the tornado parameters for. Okay, we can't even do that. Oh my gosh. We have to wait until the 18Z comes out, I think. I don't really understand that. I get it. I mean, they got rid of the. If you look at the wind risk, they got rid of that hatched wind risk, which is fine with me. I don't. That's probably the right call to get rid of the hatched wind risk. Hail risk is just for any initial supercells, but the tornado risk needs to be a little further south than that. I mean, I just don't see how that makes much sense. Like I said again, though, I don't work there. Obviously, I don't know what they're seeing stuff that I may not be able to see. But I just simply am looking at I look at some models, especially obviously the 12Z was the last one. The 18Z would have to be the one that goes future into the future, but that just that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Nonetheless, that's kind of all I